So here we go with our guests. I'm really, really excited to have Andy Navarrete and Akite Daniel, who are going to join us, they're right there. Good. Welcome you all.
Morning.
Welcome to Win TV. Andy, you're with Capital One, and Akite, you're with Community of Hope, like I said, right here in the Ward 8 community. And you all are trying to address the issue of the COVID-19 vaccine disparities. I mean, there's been some questions about, who's getting the vaccine, how they're getting it, how accessible it is. Andy, I'll start with you. Capital One, why did you jump into this?
Sure, and Denise, thank you so much for having us on, and really love the work that the Washington Informer performs here in this community. As a lifelong Washingtonian, it's a privilege to be able to talk to you. For Capital One, oftentimes, people say, well, why is a bank interested in healthcare? And for us, when we look at all of these sort of interconnections between the kinds of challenges that our communities face, what we see is that oftentimes something like a healthcare crisis can turn into an economic crisis. And we have certainly seen that play out nationally, and in particular here in the DMV. And so, as a company that was founded in the Washington area and has over 10,000 associates living and working in this region, we know that the health and well-being of this community is absolutely critical to our success as a company. And so when we looked at the extraordinary toll that the COVID-19 vaccine has taken on the Black community in the DMV, on other communities of color, and not only the direct toll, but also the revelations and greater transparency that has been brought to the challenges that were already present in these communities, we know that health dislocation led to an economic dislocation. And so as a financial institution, as a company that is committed to supporting the cause of socioeconomic mobility, within our communities, we knew we had to step in here and find partners who could help us educate and make available to the community access to these critical vaccines.
And Akite, thank you. Thank you for that, Andy. It makes a whole lot of sense, because we've seen how this pandemic has played out, particularly in communities like Ward 8, where we are. And Akite, that's where you operate. That's where the Community of Hope is. And so how are you all addressing the idea of, at least, I know you were involved in major COVID testing. And so now with the roll out of the vaccine, how's that working?
Hi, thanks, Denise and Andy. It's critical for us. We have been in this community for a long time, and then COVID hit, and we saw some of these things, right? So 75% of the deaths in Washington, D.C. have been Black Washingtonians from COVID, while Black Washingtonians only make up about 45% of the population. So it's really critical for us. And at this point, we are still testing, we are still seeing patients, but COVID and death from COVID is not preventable. So every time I personally, or we as an organization, hear about a patient of ours that is sick in the hospital that passed from COVID, now it's preventable. Now we have to think, hey, what if we had gotten to them, last week? What if we had reached out to them last month, right? There's a pretty decent chance that they would not have passed away. So it's really critical for us. And is a huge threat to the health and safety and economic mobility of our patients. So it's important.
So share with me how the partnership works, because you seem like you're in two different parts of the spectrum, but you've come together. How does this partnership work? Sure. Oh, Andy, want to start?
Sure.
Start with
you. And one of the things that we recognize is that we can't do what we do alone, and so. For Capital One, being an integral part of the community and leveraging the wonderful resources that already exist in our community is oftentimes how we find the ability to have a real impact. And so Community of Hope is an organization that we have known and worked with for a long time. We knew of the wonderful work they were doing in Wards 1 and 8 to set up vaccine clinics. But we knew that one of the opportunities was how do you restore and build both a sufficient level of trust within the community for the vaccine, but also equally importantly, break down some of the barriers to access that exist. I mean, folks, I think in the narrative have focused a lot on trust, and that is an important issue. But the fact is that one shouldn't need a computer science degree to figure out how to take care of their health needs. And so finding the organizations that are trusted within these communities, that have access to the individuals within these communities, and that have these pre-existing relationships, we felt that was the way forward to make sure that we can make a difference here as well. And Akite Community of Hope, I think, are just doing heroic work in terms of finding volunteers. Some of our older citizens and residents who have a lot of sway in their communities to deliver this message and to really help bridge the divide that exists between knowledge and access and the right health outcomes. So we really have found their work and their partnership to be invaluable.
So is this a funding relationship? Is it okay? All right.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to figure out. And what difference is it making, Akite, for you all to have Capital One involved in this?
Really invaluable. So for about 2.5 months, we were just here, right? Doing our best. We didn't really have much support. And thankfully for Capital One stepping in, now we have financial support as well as technical support. So we were already doing testing, seeing patients, triaging patients, answering phone calls. We were doing so much, and we were really stretching our staff and our capabilities thin, right? So now Capital One steps in with financial support, as well as a lot of media support, right? Helping us get the word out about vaccines. So we can, as of, I believe this week, we'll have a dedicated team working on COVID vaccination, right? So we can really ramp up to our goal, which is about 600 vaccines a week. So support from Capital One makes that possible in a way it was not before. It was hard.
Well, I'm glad that they reached out to us because we know the work that the Community Hope is doing in this community, and like Andy said, in Ward 1. And so, I mean, when we talk about disparities, one of the issues, Akite, that you've probably seen, and I really want you to speak to it, is the reluctance. How are you all dealing with that? The people who are expressing reluctance about getting this vaccine? And what extra measures does this grant allow you to take to sort of get people comfortable with the process?
Thanks. That's a really important point, Denise. I think the first important thing that we did is that we're here, right? So the first thing you can do is have a relationship. If you don't have a relationship with someone, you're not going anywhere. So we've been in the community for a while, right? We know our patients well and intimately. And so COVID hit, and this is a health crisis, right? So we have tried to be there with testing, with education about the virus, how to stop the spread. Then vaccines came on the scene, and they've been a lot of questions. So we've been doing our best through our social media to reach out to people and let them know about the availability of vaccines and appointments. Myself as a provider, I talk to every patient I encounter, talking about the vaccine, asking, hey, what are your questions? What are your doubts? I love, love, love to hear what patients think, right? So I love to ask, hey, why don't you want to take it? Or I might have a patient who is 60 and they have their son, their daughter, their grandson telling them, oh, no, I don't want to take it. And I can kind of talk to a family about it. So why don't, what questions do you have? What questions do your cousins have? What does your auntie think about it? To really get to people and just, remind them of the dangers, right? So we are seeing very sick patients. We have lost patients to COVID, from the health side and the other side of the economic impact, which Andy mentioned. If you don't have good health, you're not going to work to make money. And now we're kind of seeing that on a nationwide level, right? So just reminding patients how we have all been impacted, the risks, especially the increased risk that here in Ward 8 patients are facing from contracting COVID, becoming really ill, having symptoms that don't resolve, and death from COVID. So it's a constant work every day. Every touch point that we have with a patient, we're talking about the COVID vaccine.
Well, one who has had hers and feeling good, feeling pretty comfortable and safe. All right. So we're part of the club. We can get together with our masks. Right. We're still wearing masks, and we're still saying maybe not 6 feet, but but it's still important because we want to make sure that our community is safe. This has been, I think, a fantastic partnership. And I'm really glad that, both of you all were here to share this with us. I know that Capital One is not only here in a partnership, but also has a presence in the DMV. And so it's good to have an alternative solution for our financial concerns. And so we're glad that Capital One is here for that. And Akite, I just want to ask in closing, if people wanted to get a vaccine there at Community Hope, what would they need to do?
I would definitely point them towards our website. We are working really hard to vaccinate our patients. We do not waste a single dose. So if doses are available, right, we do have a standby system. And if it seems that the fastest way to get a vaccine is not through us, we're happy to point people towards Department of Health as well. We're, as you mentioned earlier, DC is doing a great job in ramping up availability to vaccines. So the DC Department of Health website is also a great place to start. But, come information when we want to give it out. So you can definitely reach out to us via our website.
And Andy, I can't let you go without having at least asking you about Financial Literacy Month, this
Sure.
month of April, because there's so much we need to learn. And so tell me what Capital One is doing that will help to, prepare people for some of the issues that they're, one, I mean, people are getting those stimulus checks, right?
Yes.
And so we want to make sure they do the right things with that. People are getting their tax returns, right? And so if there's ever a time we need to be financially literate, it's right now, because that money can go just like that. So what's up with that?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point, Denise, and something again we're sort of acutely mindful of that the timing of this works out extraordinarily well. And one of the things that we recognize is that the stimulus checks are an opportunity to help bridge gaps in employment, bridge gaps in people's needs, help make the rent payments and car payments and other things that are so important. But it's also an opportunity, in some instances, for people to build a bit of a nest egg to help with that next emergency expense. And we recognize that that's such an important part of the equation as well. Capital One last year launched what we call the Impact Initiative, which is a $200 million and 5-year commitment to improving socioeconomic mobility. So we like to think of financial literacy actually as a stepping stone towards wealth building within the community and closing some of the equity divides that have plagued our society, I think, for so many decades. And so the Impact Initiative, in addition to supporting great causes like this one, is also supporting the building of affordable housing, workforce development, and skill building within Black and Brown communities, financial well-being, better understanding of one's financial services picture, and all of the various complexities that one needs to navigate in order to do that successfully. And then also the incubation of small businesses, again, with a particular focus in Black and Brown communities, because small businesses can be such wonderful engines of growth and development. But we know that they have been, again, disproportionately impacted by the events of the last year. And so everything that we can do to kind of help them get back on their feet and to help some of these wonderful entrepreneurs succeed in this area, that's a real priority for us.
That's fantastic. And it helps, Andy, to have someone like yourself who is homegrown, who understands the pains of the community and also, where we can be. So I'm glad that you're leading the show there, I guess, at Capital One.
Yeah,
in
I
this
will
area.
say, Denise, the one painful part or whatever is looking at the picture of Mr. Williams behind you and remembering much better days of Washington football. But thank you for representing some of the great parts of our hometown.
Yeah, you know this, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Frederick Douglass is back there as well.
Shedding a little tear as we're talking here.
All right. Well, thank both of you all for being with us today. And, we want to do what we can to, like you said, Akite, to get the word out and tell our friends and family members, to go ahead and get that vaccine and know that Capital One is a partner, not only with you all, but also in the community. So I want to thank you all for joining us today and have a great weekend.
Thank you. Take care.
All righty. Okay, doke.